Good evening, TDN listeners, and of course, the viewers of TDN and This Week in Interview. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Interview with your host and guide, Anthony Drago. Eh, Wednesdays, my very special day of the week because I get to spend an hour or so with you. I get to have wonderful conversations and to share those conversations with you. So, good night to you, my regular listeners. Welcome back. And those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome. I hope you like it and you will become a regular listener, especially if you're listening to us in Dominica on RVR Jams. On DigiPlay channel 59, they carry this weekend interview live. So we want to say special good evening to you. And also, if you're in the Toronto market, radio SBE, online radio SBE carries this weekend interview live. If you know anyone in that marketplace, just let them know that this weekend interview is on and it's live and they can catch us. But also, you may be tuning in on our YouTube channel, this weekend interview YouTube channel. Good night to you. Make sure you give us a like and you subscribe and you follow us. Also, TDN YouTube channel, tdntv.net. For those of you who don't do um, Facebook, you have tdntv.net. And if you're driving or doing something where you should not be looking at something else, you can always tune in by radio, tdnradio.net, which is how we started. We started just on radio, TDN radio, and we expanded, and now we have the full media. So, welcome to you, everyone. Tonight, I don't have a guest tonight because I wanted to spend some time with you. I wanted to talk about a few things that I think we should be paying attention to. I, yeah, I don't know if you're aware, but August 1st is the anniversary of the declaration of the emancipation of slavery in the West Indies, in the British West Indies. So Britain declared the end of slavery on August 1st, 1834. I used to be a student, avid student of history. Caribbean history is what we did in high school. And that is one date that stayed with me, 1834, August 1st. Uh, a lot of the countries mark it with August Monday. So they mark it as the first Monday in August. Some have Carnival. And the link between that and Carnival is that uh, they said when the announcement happened, the newly freed enslaved people took to the streets with drums and dancing and singing to celebrate their hard won freedom. And so that is why we still have carnival on around that time, the 1st of August, August Monday, the first week in August. And a few of the islands like Grenada, Antigua, Trinidad, no, not Trinidad is like Dominica, but Grenada, Antigua, I think St. Lucia has theirs, but I don't think it's quite. Uh, they moved theirs into the summer, but I don't think it's at August Monday. I think it was a couple weeks ago, but we get it. The celebration of newly won freedom, had won freedom, where folks took to the streets and started dancing and beating drums and all of that. It carries forward. In some of the islands, we mixed it with our religion, especially the Catholic religion, and it morphed in with carnival happening on the Monday and Tuesday before Ash Wednesday as part of that, I think, Roman Catholic celebration where you before they go into Lent, which is 40 days of Lent that ends in Easter, you will have a celebration like where they would call it as Dimanche Gras, Samedi Gras, well, Fat Saturday, Fat Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday. uh, where you would indulge, you would overindulge, and that's why they call it Samedi Gras, Fat Saturday, Dimanche Gras, Fat Sunday, of the Mardi Gras, which is Monday, Fat Monday, which is the Mardi Gras parade in New Orleans, uh, Louisiana. That's one of the more popular carnivals around the world, Mardi Gras. It's Fat Tuesday, you know. So Monday is Lenny, Mardi is Tuesday. So uh, the celebration starts on Samedi Gras, which is right after Good Friday. No, not Good Friday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then on Wednesday you go and ask for absolution for your sins. You get your ashes, so it's Ash Wednesday, and that kicks off 40 days of Lent. And Lent ends with the celebration of, by the Catholic anyway, and a few of the other religions, uh, of the crucifixion of, of Jesus Christ and his resurrection on Easter Sunday. So you see that connection. But what I want to talk about is that how many of us, of our younger folks, know that that is what is being celebrated when we say, when we mark Easter Monday, or some islands have the holiday on the 1st of August, August Monday, I mean, and some islands have it on the 1st of August. How many people know that what we're actually celebrating is the emancipation of our our great, probably great great grandparents, because it was 1834, and we are in, so it's like 200 years ago, a little less than 200 years ago, 190 if you have to count it, because we're in 2025. So, and and it happened in 1834. So exactly like 209 years ago, 211 years ago. My math, 211 years ago. We, how many of us know that? Are we giving sufficient significance to that? This should be our celebration. Our people were enslaved for 400 years, kidnapped from Africa, brought to the Caribbean, brutalized, enslaved, no rights at all, not even the right to fight back, not even the right to have a family. And then they fought, they resisted. Uh, those Some people went to the legislature, and for whatever reason, on August 1st, 1834, we were granted freedom from slavery. To me, that should be the biggest celebration or the biggest commemoration in the Caribbean, in the former colonies, where our people make up the vast majority. So, like in Dominica, where 90% of Dominicans are descendants of the enslaved people, why isn't our remembrance of that more significantly celebrated, significantly commemorated? Where is the celebration of that struggle? And we know we had a lot of struggle. We had a lot of resistance. Okay, we had a lot of revolt. We had a lot of sacrifice, literal sacrifice, because when the enslavers found one of our people who were planning a resistance or revolution, they made an example of them. They brutalized them. The punishment was absolutely atrocious. And these folks, some of them perished, some of them struggled and survived. And then finally, on the 1st of August, 1834, they were emancipated Why don't we celebrate that more? Why do we celebrate everything else more than that? What is more important to us as a people than that? Why do we still, why do we still give all the celebrations more significance than that? Why do we celebrate religious holidays more than our emancipation? Why do we celebrate people's birthday more than that? Uh, all of these other holidays that we have Christmas, we have New Year's, we have all of those things that existed. And while they existed, we were still enslaved and criminalized and brutalized. We still celebrate them more than we celebrate the emancipation of our people. Why? Why? What about it? And we have to think about it. I am deliberately talking about it tonight because I think we need to celebrate it. We need to say, because celebrating it means that we think it is important to us, that we are important to us. Because if you, for example, if you're in a household and you're celebrating somebody, let's say you have your wife or your husband, your spouse, and uh, in an employment situation, for example, where you say a man has his wife, but when it comes to his boss birthday or his boss's wife birthday, he makes a big deal about it and makes sure he gives them a gift and celebrate it and so on. And when it comes to his home and his wife and his kids, he barely acknowledges. He maybe just says happy birthday or whatever it is. He barely acknowledges it. What do you feel? What would you feel in a situation like that? You would feel as though he feels he gives less importance to himself, his family, than he gives to his boss. So it's a similar thing. We were enslaved by Europeans. After the emancipation of slavery, we were still colonies. So they still controlled society, they still controlled which holidays we celebrated, how much we celebrated them, which were funded, which were not funded. But we've obtained independence. So, for example, Dominica's independence is almost 50 years away. In the next, we were 1978, so in 3 years' time, we will be 50 years. Once we became in control and we had control as to where we spent our money and what we celebrated, why haven't we shifted and given more significance and more importance to the celebration of the emancipation of our people? Why? Don't we think that we are important enough to celebrate something as significant as that? That's the question that I have. Why is the celebration? We don't even have the celebration. We don't even have a formal ceremony that recognizes that that's what happened. We People just know it's a beach day. August Monday, you go to the beach, you go to a river, you do a picnic, you drink rum. Somebody gets into an accident, somebody loses their life, and it's just another fete. And a lot of people don't even know why we celebrate August Monday. As a matter of fact, why don't we just celebrate it on the 1st of August? Why do we think that going about our business is so much more important than celebrating that great milestone in our people's history on the day that it happened? In other words, can you imagine if Christmas was the last, I don't know, well, let's say, I don't know what day it is. Let us say from the origin, Jesus Christ was born on a Wednesday. And we say, well, okay, he was born on December 25th, which is the last Wednesday of December. But you know what? Wednesdays in the middle of the week, we don't want to disrupt our lives and our business. So what we will do, we will just celebrate it on the last Monday of December. So Christmas is the last Monday of December, not December 25th. It's the last Monday of December, so people can have a long weekend, whatever, like we do August Monday. Or people were freed from slavery on the 1st of August, but instead of celebrating it on the 1st of August, we celebrate it on August Monday. I think that is significant. I think that is significant because it shows that we don't give the same significance to that as we give to Christmas. We don't give the same Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day falls on the 14th. We always celebrate it on the 14th. You know, uh, all these other holidays that we find, the 4th of July falls on the 4th of July. They don't go to the Friday or the Monday or whatever it is. It falls on the 4th of July. So why is it that in the Caribbean we cannot see it that we should celebrate Emancipation Day and call it what it is so everybody knows what we're celebrating and make it about that? Emancipation Day is the 1st of August every year, not August Monday. I I think that's things like that have significance. We might think that it's trivial, August Monday, 1st of Monday was, but the fact that you are recognizing that day and you say no matter if it falls on a Monday, if it falls on a Sunday, if it falls on a Friday, we are recognizing that day because we are giving importance to that day and we're calling it Emancipation Day. Why isn't it called Emancipation Day? Somebody trying to bury the questions that would come. Somebody's trying to bury the attention and the significance that they actually enslaved our people for 400 years. And somebody is going to ask, what does emancipation mean? Why did we have to be emancipated? And the question, well, we want to be emancipated because a certain group of people did not thought it would be more profitable to force us to work on their behalf and take all the profit from our labor and just give us just sufficient to keep us alive. They treated us not as human beings, they treated us as livestock, right? Treated us as livestock. And that's and then and until we had to fight, it took them 400 years for us to finally gain freedom from enslavement. Why, as a people, we haven't moved to making that more significant? We have Poppy Day, where we recognize the end of the Second World War. We have a monument that is set up to the people that fought on behalf of the Europeans, set up in every capital city in the West Indies, and we put a wreath at a cenotaph, and all of that. We celebrate all of those things with such significance and gusto. And what happened to celebrating our emancipation? What happens to recognizing the veterans of the war against slavery, the veterans of the resistance to slavery? What happens to celebrating the heroes? Why aren't the stories of our heroes and our heroines significantly part of our regular uh, cultural storytelling and all of those things? When we were not in control, we could not make sure that the significance that it demands was set as a priority. But we've been in control for so long. Why are we still sulking? We mark it as if it was something that we want to hide. We kind of recognize it as a beach day, and people get the day off from holiday. We move it to a Monday, so at least you have a long weekend. We wouldn't be disrupting business too much, and so on and so on. Why can't we celebrate it on the 1st of August and call it Emancipation Day and have a huge make a big deal out of it. Now, I think that that is important because if we do that, we will help us to to get a better sense of ourselves, who we are. It will help us to remember the sacrifices that our forefathers or ancestors made so that we are not still enslaved. Also, the victory and the triumph of our ancestors where they came in chains and suffered cruelty and all kind of torture, and they managed to wrestle control of the land from these folks and passed it on to us. Imagine if that was front and center in our education. Imagine how we would react when we see our government just willingly giving back that land to foreigners. Some of the foreigners are descendants of the people who enslaved us, the very same people that our ancestors fought and died and bled to win that land for us. Now we are just allowing them to come in and handing it back to them. So if we were celebrating our people and our people's accomplishments, we would we would certainly be more aware of the sacrifices that were made. We would put more value on the inheritance that we got from our folks, and we would be a little more militant, a little more selfish, a little more aggressive at protecting the legacy that was handed down to us, that we would be celebrating and we would be proud because our people came in as if kidnapped in chains, coming to a land that they had no idea existed after, I mean, torturous journey of months, get to the Caribbean. So many of the people died and then coming here and being treated as beasts of burden and being brutalized for just asking what happened, why do you want me to do this, why you brutalizing me. You get killed and you get made examples of, and our folks endured that. They resisted against it, they revolutionized against it, and they took that property away from those folks and passed it on to us. Imagine if every person in the Caribbean would think about that and have that as part of their identity, as part of their heritage. And we have a big commemoration, a big celebration on August Monday to remind us of it and to pass it on to our kids, and they pass it on to their kids and for generations. Imagine if we were that type of people who celebrated that, how much more difficult it would be for us to stand by and watch our politicians just give it away, just allow anybody to come and just get it because this is my legacy that was handed down to me by my ancestors. My ancestors fought. Imagine, imagine if you as a person have to fight for something that's in your that you won. You had to go to court, you had to go to war, what and you gain control of it. And so you pass it on to your children. And as soon as your children get it, they go back to the same person or the person's children and they handed it back to them. What would you feel? And that's what we're doing. And so when I look at you know, August 1st just go by. It's almost like we're sitting on a riverbank and we just watch it go by and we say, we buy some rum, we buy some beers, we have some chicken, whatever. We go by the river, we go by the beach. It's a day off from work and we just drink and eat and go back at our home. And not one thought, most of us go through that August Monday or without a thought of why it is. What is it that we're celebrating? What is it? Do we take a minute of silence to remember all of those that lost their lives to gain us freedom? How do we recognize those people who sacrifice so much for us? I think we need to start that movement because I believe that as a people, the people from the Caribbean are not strongly, are not sufficiently strongly anchored to our heritage. We're not sufficiently connected to our history so that it's so easy to get distracted by another culture. It's so easy. You see how we allow our leaders to do such a bad job of governing our country that we have basically become stock farms where we produce human beings. We give them their first few years of education, and at the first opportunity, we send them to somebody else's country, including me, send them to somebody else's country to work and to build their country. And our country just stays stagnant because our brain power, our creativity that would move us forward, we 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 outsource it to somebody else. And so as a people in the Caribbean, we just barely kept alive, just barely kept alive, so that we can produce another generation of workers, of thinkers, of creators to go in somebody else's country and develop their country. I think if we understood where the ground that we stand on, the ground that we were born in Dominica, in St. Lucia, in Antigua, in Grenada, in Trinidad, in Jamaica, if we understood that better, we would be more reluctant to leave home. And therefore, in order for us not to have to leave home, in order for us not to have to leave so that our kids, we would demand more from our leaders. We would demand better governance from our leaders. Before I'm going to take a break in a minute, but before we take that break, there's another thing I want to touch on. When we talk about celebration, you see some folks, Carnival is now what we do on August Monday in some of the islands. Some and my God, uh, that seems to be the only thing that Caribbean people are passionate about. I know I'm making a blanket statement, and of course there are exceptions. The exception makes the rule, right? But that's the biggest thing. We see all kinds of news, all kinds of stuff happening, and our folks, we talk about it for 5 minutes. Maybe we share it on Facebook. Maybe we call somebody and we say, "You don't hear that now," so and so. But the passion and the outrage is not there. One of these days, try to cancel Carnival. Go to any one of those islands and try to cancel Carnival, and you will hear the outrage and the uproar and the protest and all of those things that would force whatever government that is there to change their mind and to re-establish Carnival. The only thing that moves us now is fete. And as a Caribbean people, we have nothing to show. Nothing. You visit the West Indies seems to be a shell of itself. Our any serious or major illness we have to go outside to do it. Or or folks have to leave the region in order to have better outcomes for themselves and for their children. Because the only thing, the strongest thing, or the strongest identity that we have, the strongest identity that we have is Carnival. And now, when you look at Carnival, I mean, our women, our young women, our not so young women, our women that should be nowhere near on the street in whatever it is that they're wearing, all they want to do is to bend over and and our young men are just drinking. I mean, when you look at some of it, and I'm not preaching morality, I'm just saying that we seem to have lost our sense. What what we see as acceptable And why is it that we only want to lead the world in that kind of a way? Everything else, because when you look at other cultures and other places, you don't see that type of thing. You see it on the fringe, but it's not front and center. And every opportunity we get, somebody is bending over, touching the floor, and just behaving in a vulgar manner. We don't see that. So why is it in that area we want to lead? Why we choose to lead in that area? And our men, our young men, our not so young men, just smoking weed and drinking. And why do we celebrate that? People can be free and they can do what they want, but when it becomes so normal that it is there in our face and we don't see. Now, before you criticize me and say I'm trying to be a prude, what I, bear with me. Why don't we see that same vigor and that same exuberance and that same energy in other aspects, in other productive aspects of our life? Why don't we see that? Why don't we see that as a norm? Because we have the brain for sure. Because when we go to other countries, we run past them and we produce and we excel and we accomplish. Why can't we see in the region a similar type of leadership? And so I would be less critical if we were working as hard as we playing, because they say all work and no play makes Jill a dull girl. But why is Jill and Jack only interested in playing? Where's the work, right? So, folks, I want you to think about that. Think about that seriously. Why aren't we celebrating Emancipation Day? And don't tell me we have a little Naya Bingi this and that. No. Why is Emancipation Day celebration not more front and center of our year? Why aren't we celebrating that more? What in our history is more significant and more important to our well-being and our development than the emancipation of slavery? I say that is the most important event, not Christmas, not New Year's, not Easter, not any one of those other, not Independence. I think the achievement of the abolition of slavery should be the most important aspect of our celebration of our history. And therefore, we can compare how far we've come. And therefore, I am saying that that celebration should be more central, more core to our lives. It should be more significant. We should call it what it is. We should celebrate it on the 1st of August. We should have specific activities that recognizes the sacrifices that our people made and expresses gratitude for doing it and recognizes what they gave us as our heritage, as their achievement, and let's reflect on how much of a good steward we are being to those gifts. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more, a little bit deeper, but I'm going to talk about the budget. The government of Dominica presented their budget uh, recently. And so I want to talk about that a little bit in the sense that it sort of flows from where I am, because how you allocate your resources is supposed to reflect your priorities. And so let's do a quick little overview of the budget and see if we have hope based on where our funds are being allocated. So stay tuned, don't go away. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Presented by
People say I've got a great smile. Well, I have to say, this is all thanks to the professional team at Beacon Dental Group right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I've got world-class dental care. Beacon Dental Group has expert and caring staff dedicated to providing the most advanced and satisfactory treatment in all aspects of oral health. Their services are designed to meet your needs and give you a perfect smile, too. General checkups, cosmetic surgery, Gemini laser service, and advanced procedures, all in a state-of-the-art facility. Call or visit Beacon Dental Group today, 1026 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester, Massachusetts, or call 617-282-2146 for a smile that lights the world.
Hey y'all, I just discovered an amazing plugin called Joan, Jock on Air Now, for managing my radio station's on-air schedule. It keeps your visitors updated on what's playing and when their favorite hosts are live. Trust me, Joan is the best choice for your WordPress site. There's a free version available in the WordPress repository, and it's definitely worth trying. If you want even more features, Joan Premium lets you easily edit your schedule with just a click. No need to delete and re-add shows. Don't miss out on Joan. Get it now from the WordPress plugins repository or visit the developers at gndenterprisesinc.com for more info.
Looking to promote your business, engage current customers, and reach new people? Well, look no further. From the basic presentation to a fully fledged advertisement, use your video ads to attract customers. At Man's Audiovisual Productions, we do just that. We produce videos for business and event promotions, product demo videos, animated explainer videos, fundraiser ads, and much, much more. Engage your clients and sell online. We customize the video to match your brand design. Guaranteed to play flawless on all devices, including smart TVs. Contact us at telephone number 203-690-4342 or 767-245-6238. Visit our website, mansaudiovisual.com, or email us at derekvideo@gmail.com.
Writers, we need you. We've got exciting news. Get ready to immerse yourself in the exciting world of words at the Write to Kubuli Virtual Literary Festival. From September 15th to 20th, 2025, we're showcasing the incredible talents of writers of Dominican descent. Join us for inspiring panels, thought-provoking workshops, captivating readings, all from the comfort of your own home. You can engage with your favorite authors, participate in workshops, and dive into discussions that spark your intellect and imagination. You don't want to miss out on this vibrant celebration of culture and creativity. Make sure to save the date, September 15th to 20th. Follow us on social media for updates. Let's hashtag Write to Kubuli together. We're trending. Register now.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us through the break. I hope you patronize our sponsors. They keep this mic live and they keep the lights on. We have some wonderful sponsors. Man's Audio Visual does all our graphic work. We have Beacon Dental Health in Boston that really has been with us for a very long time. Excuse me. We have Joan Jock on Air Now. Is an app. It's a plugin actually that helps online radio stations better like manage their programming and all of that. So check it out. Who did I miss? We have the books. Uh, I've had quite a few books on lately. We've been just been producing. We have really prolific folks who are just producing their books, and it's so important because not only is writing art, it's also a record of our history. And so I hope when we bring those authors on, you're patronizing the authors because it's well written work. But not only is it well written work, it you're supporting our people. And so the white to Kubuli, right to Kubuli, literary festival is happening from September 15th to the 20th. And book yourself so you can do a presentation of your work, whether it's a short story, whether it's just something that you wrote, a poem, or somebody else's work that you really are enamored with and you would like to read an excerpt from it. eh, I'll encourage you to go in there. And also, if you even if you don't plan to participate, mark that date so you can tune in and be part of the virtual. So it's a virtual literary festival, and the writers are coming out of the woodwork. The next book I have for you is going to be an exciting one. I got a call from an author in London, and she has written a book that she calls Chocolate Chip, Chocolate Chip and Cola, Chocolate Chip and Cola, and it's about her experience migrating from the village of Dalis, or some people say Dalis in Dominica, to London. She said she's in her 80s, so she's an elder, and she has written this book, and we're pretty excited about it. That's the next book I'm going to bring you later down in the month of August. So, folks, if you're tuning in, tell me. Tell me if you agree with me about how much we we don't celebrate in a significant way Emancipation Day, and we should. Hey, Mafa, thank you. She said, I'm certainly present. You do it, bro. Keep us informed. You're greatly appreciated. Keep it up. That's my big sis, Martha. Thank you. And of course, my friend Sapphire Sky says, looking forward to that. Chocolate chips and cola. Sapphire also has her book. Um, Sapphire, put the name in the chat for me so I can, it's Culture. Culture, where she wrote about the history of the Caribbean, in a really well presented, colorful book, a coffee table gem, conversation starter. And not only that, a record of our history and a retelling in a modern kind of a way. So very, very great book. Find it and support our writers. Culture. Yeah, I got it right. Okay, so before the break, folks, I was talking about our lack of reverence to the folks that won our freedom from us, from our enslavers, and wrestled the land from them and handed it down to us, and how that is diminished, so small, so small. It's diminished in our consciousness, in our heritage, in our psyche. And I'm saying that we need to release it and let it bloom and let it blossom, let it blow up. We need that. We absolutely need that. I want to spend some time. The government of Dominica on the 1st of August presented the budget for the fiscal year. I know that's a hard pivot, but we are already almost up the hour. So the government of Dominica presented their budget on the 1st of August. I think that was like a month late because the fiscal year starts in July. Anyway, for the fiscal year 2025, 2026. And in that budget, I'm always amazed at the budget, whether it's just numbers on a paper or whatever it is, the recurrent expenditure. So the money that they spend on salaries and monuments and social security pensions and all of those things. The budget says that the government spends $680 million on recurrent expenditure. Now, if Dominica has 60,000 people, you can do that math quickly for me. Um, 680 million divided by 60,000. Dominicans should be really living a very large life. I am going to do the math. Bear with me, okay? If it just popped in my head to do it right now. So sorry for doing this live. 680 million. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 680 million divided. Let's say Dominica has 60,000 people. 11 $11,000 per person is spent on recurring expenses. In addition to that, the capital expenditure, so the projects to improve roads and to build schools and to build housing and whatever other projects that require influx of money that's not a recurring monthly operating, was 661 or 662 for easy numbers $1 million. So the budget is about $1.3 billion, Eastern Caribbean dollars, right? So $1.3 billion. When if you live in Dominica or you visited Dominica recently, honestly, does Dominica look like a place that you spend $1 billion on every year? Because that's the budget every year for the last several years. Our budget is hovering around $1 billion. It was 980, 960, now it's 1.3. That's the question I want, because to me, that is the discussion. That is what it means. That's what the budget means. When the government puts a budget in front of us and it says that for this year, starting in July of 2025 and ending in June of 2026, we intend to spend $1.3 billion on Dominica. We intend last year we spent about $1 billion, and the year before that we spent $1 billion. If you did not know what the budget was, and you just landed in Dominica and you look around, you drove around the country and so on and so forth, does does Dominica look like a place where you spend $1 billion a year? Let's ask ourselves that question. That is what the budget means. Dominica has one hospital. We probably have 10 secondary schools. We have a few more primary schools. I don't believe we have 100 miles of road, motorable roads. What else? One hospital, maybe 10 secondary schools, maybe another 20 primary schools, 100 miles of road. And we have $1 billion to spend every year. Why don't we have the best hospital in the region? One we have, only one. You have one hospital. That hospital should be state of the art. It should have the best staff, the most motivated staff, medication, and everything, because you only have one and you have $1 billion to spend, not $1 billion. So even if you say, okay, on the hospital I'm going to spend $50 million this year and $50 million next year and $50 million the the following year, right? You're telling me that there's a reason why we don't have a hospital that can keep most of our people healthy. I mean, so when we hear this thing about a budget being presented and all of that, how are we supposed to take it? Are we supposed to just take it as the Constitution says you have to do a budget and present it to Parliament? So we do a budget and present it to Parliament, as if it were an assignment that we do in school, that you sit down in class and your teacher tell you, okay, imagine that you have a country and come up with a budget for the country. Tell me what areas you would spend money on and how much money you would spend. And it's just an academic exercise. It's not a real thing. Because I go to Roseau. I walk in Roseau, the capital of Dominica. I was there in February. And you cannot walk with your head up because the road is crumbling into the sidewalk. The sidewalk is crumbling into the drain. You- the same, like when you walk on the road, you have some little, we call it a ramp, where if you want to go, if you're a little older, your knees are weak, you want to go from the road to the sidewalk, you have something that you can walk on. It's the same one that was there when I was going to grammar school in 1978, 79, 80. When I was living in Roseau in 79, 80, I lived in Roseau from, I started going to grammar school in 1978, and I graduated in 1984. I went to sixth form for 2 years. That's 86. And I left Dominica in 87 to go to college. During that time, they used to have the Roseau, it wasn't a city, as I said, it was a town. The Roseau Town Council used to have people that would go every other evening and they would sweep the drains in Roseau to prevent moss from growing and to prevent debris. And so they would pick up whatever debris that's in the drain and collect it next to there, because the garbage trucks would come by and they would scoop it up and toss it in the back of the garbage truck. People would put their garbage on the side of the road and they would pick it up, and there was some kind of management. And we all remember Mr. Salo used to pass around as the inspector, a sanitary inspector, and make sure that things were nice and clean and so on and so on. And you go to Rosa now, if the rats don't eat the stuff in the drain, it just stays there and rottens for itself. But we say we spend $1.3 billion a year in that country. Where and how, right? So that, in a general thought about the budget, that's how I approach it. Is, if you take Dominica and you give a person $1 billion to spend in Dominica every year for 5 years, after 5 years, he's supposed to bring you back change and say, "Hey, boss, I have nothing else to spend money on, and everything is good." That's my opinion. It might sound naive, but as a layperson, I'm not an economist. That's how I see it. If you have $1 billion to spend in Dominica every year on recurring expenses and capital expenses, after 5 years, you should run out of things to do. All the roads should be perfect. All our drains should be perfect. Our schools should be well stocked. Our teachers well paid. Our policemen well paid. Our nurses well paid. Our hospital is well equipped with everything that we need, because we only have one hospital, we have 10 schools, we have 100 miles of road. That's what I believe, right? Now, let's look at the recurring expenses in the last budget, right? The largest expenditure is in the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development, Climate Resilience, and Social Security. That is 43% of our recurring expenses. It's in under the control of the Prime Minister, because no, he's no longer Minister of Finance. McIntyre is, right? Sorry. Now, the next expensive in terms of recurring expenses is national security and legal affairs. Why? Why is national security and legal affairs 10 is 10% of our budget? The other one that's 10% is health, wellness, and social services. So we have 10 police, maybe 100 policemen. That's because we don't have an army. So that's our security and, of course, infrastructure. But we spend the same amount on that as we spend on healthcare. And not just healthcare, wellness, and social services. As I say, if you dissect the budget according to where the money is allocated, you kind of see how the country is being run. The other 10%, so we have 10% in national security, 10% in education, human resources planning, vocational training, and 10% in security. Dominica is not as threat of war or anything. So what is it about national security that costs the same as education, as health, and all of that, right? 8.4% public works, public utilities, and digital economy before hurricanes and all of that, right? So That is where the 680 comes from. Um, the office of the president is 0.2%. Integrity in public integrity in public office is allocated $500,000 a year, and it's at 1%, is at 0.1%. Maybe we need to beef that up, right? The audit department is at 0.2%. So you see where the priority is not. The priority is not on integrity, it's not on auditing and accountability, right? Um, Sapphire says we have the best medical, the best school, and the best stadium. I know you're saying that in jest, but we should. We should, with the amount of money that we're spending, we should, right? Environment, rural modernization, Kalinago upliftment, and constituency empowerment, 1.6%. I think some of that national security money could go to that, helping the Kalinago people. All right. So youth and culture, youth sports, and community development is at 1.8%. So we're spending 5 times more on security, national security, 5 times more than we spend on culture, youth, sports, and community development. I don't know. Um, Establishment, personnel, and training, we spend 1.4%. Right? So you can see where it's understaffed and all of that. So let's look at the capital expenditure. Let's look at the capital expenditure. Capital expenditure, 40, no, 52.5% of the capital expenditure is allocated to the office of the prime minister. Does that sound like a black hole? The office of the prime minister, the capital expenditure, 52.5% in dollar amount, $357 million is allocated to the office of the prime minister. The next one, after we spend 52% from the office of the prime minister, we have public works, public utilities, and the digital economy coming at 19%. So I guess we have hurricanes, we have we have floods and everything every so often. So public works, in terms of capital, I guess, or bridges. Hopefully, we'll see some bridges built, right? And so on and so forth. I'm hoping. Environment, rural modernization, Kalinago upliftment is at 6%. So you get the idea of what I'm talking about. I don't need to go into the weeds and try to let's see what we have in education. Where is education? Education, human resources is at 2.2% of investment in education. Tourism is at 0.8%. Where do we have agriculture? Agriculture is at 3.4%. So, and the Minister of Finance in his delivery of the budget spoke about the challenges that the CBI program is is experiencing, and therefore predicting that there may be a dip in revenue. So if you see that there's a dip in revenue and you are in Dominica, where is the income going to come from? Where the revenue is going to come from to replace what you're going to lose as CBI uh, diminishes? Should be agriculture, it should be tourism, and it should be industry, right? But in agriculture, fisheries, blue and green economy is 3.4%. In in education is 2.5. So that's like that together, that's like 6%. Uh, Tourism is at 0.8%. So less than 10% of the budget is in education and training. The capital budget, what we're going to invest to develop, right? The less than 10% is in education, it's in agriculture, it's in tourism. So, but 52% is in the prime minister's office. I'm not going to go way deep, plus my hour is up, but I wanted to put that thought in front of you so you can marinate on that. Whether you're a supporter of the current government or not, those are the thoughts that I would like to encourage you to have about the budget so that you can have a meaningful conversation with your pal rep, with your minister, and so that you can make an argument and say, why aren't we investing in tourism? Why aren't we investing more in agriculture? What about our feeder roads that our farmers can use to bring produce down from the heights into to the market? How, education? How can we invest in an environment where our kids can get more engaged in technology, and therefore we have a hope of some innovation and some creativity happening. That's why I'm raising that so we can have those conversations. Because what I see happening is, remember in the 80s, right, 90s, 1890s, when bananas were in its heyday and we were getting a lot of money from bananas. But for a number of years in the 90s, it was clear to us that bananas were on their way out. It was getting challenged in the WTO. It was getting, we were struggling, and everybody was predicting that bananas was going to expire as an income crop that could support our economy. We watched the government do nothing about it, nothing significant. And it was surprising, but maybe not, because the government at the time was United Workers Party, and they were very familiar with the banana industry. Our Prime Minister Edison James at the time came from the banana industry, and I remember, just wondering what's happening, because it seems like we were not aggressively moving to replace our shipments of bananas to the UK with anything. And so said, when the banana industry collapsed, it was a vacuum, because so we had nothing to replace that revenue with. Do you know that Grenada has replaced the revenue from bananas with fishing? There are some of the islands that still produce bananas, but they sell it in the region. But nothing was done, knowing that on the horizon and approaching quickly was the demise of the banana industry. And I feel like we're doing the same thing right now with the CBI. We know that CBI is going to expire because of all of the challenges and all of those things. We know that the cash and revenue generating potential that it had is going to diminish. What are we investing in? Our capital expenditure budget doesn't show that we are recognizing that and taking steps to mitigate the negative impact that loss of revenue is going to have on our economy. And so the conversation that I want you to have when you engage with your ministers and your pal rep and so on is to have that type of conversation that questions what are the priorities, and when you say that is a priority, how is that reflected in the budget that you present? How are you saying that tourism is going to become one of our major income earners when in tourism your capital expenditure for tourism is only 0.6% of your total capital, your capital expenditure of your budget? 0.6%, not even 1% of your budget is an investment. You don't, and bear in mind that those are budgetary numbers. So usually they never get to spend the amount that's in the budget. So you're budgeting to spend less than 1% of your budget in tourism, but you want to tell me that your strategy is to replace part of the CBI or to get more revenue from tourism. That's not reflected in how you allocate and how you plan to spend your money. That type of conversation is what I think we need to have. So I hope tonight's program was interesting. The hour flew by, but I really wanted to talk about the emancipation and the recognition of our struggle as a people to get to where we are. We see the celebration of all these cultures. They celebrate Poppy Day, they celebrate their independence, they celebrate everything like that. If we if we say that we want to help our people to identify who they are, so we can get that, when, because as a people, when we're proud of who we are, it motivates us to work and to produce, and to keep ourselves on a certain level. We need to be more proud and more openly proud. And I think celebrating Emancipation Day is one such thing. So if I was asking, is Discover Dominica, etc., part of the budget? I'm assuming that that would be under tourism, uh, or if it's not under tourism, it would be under, let's see, there's something for industry, finance, economic development, climate, no, agriculture, fisheries, blue and green economy, maybe there. Uh, Culture establishment. See, we don't even have something that talks about industry or industrial development or something. So if it's under tourism, is, like I said, tourism is less than 8%, 0.8% of the total budget. $5.6 million is what we have allocated for tourism for the year 2025-2026. Folks, that's what I have tonight. You know, uh, that's what I have tonight. It's a bleak picture, but it is what is presented to us. It is what we have. Um, Marius Dubois says, yes, we need more information. Too much of us suffering. That's right. And we suffer, like you said, from because we don't have the information that we can engage. The more information that we have is the better that we can engage. And we can engage in a meaningful way. We can get past the shouting of the blue and the red and the green and the orange. We can get past that and start talking to each other and start setting a vision. So in the year 2028, Dominica will have been independent for 50 years. Is it possible for us to set a vision 50, and to paint a picture, use our imagination, our creativity, and imagine Dominica 50 years independent? What would be ideal? What would be the ideal Dominica? And maybe we can try, if a vision like that, we could try to see if we could move the country in that direction, towards that vision. Let's think about it. Maybe I'll do a couple series of programs on that and call it Vision 50 or something like that. Or if you can come up with something more creative, and we can start to have that conversation about what is coming, what how we can influence what's coming, rather than just talking about what has been, you know. But remember, the recurrent expenditure, so our operating expenses, salaries, and all of that is $680 million was budgeted for this year. And for capital expenditure, our investments, our preparedness, our recovery is $661 million. Do we see, when we land in Dominica, do we see a place where $1 billion is spent every year? Do we see that? Or if we say, okay, some of it is salaries, take the capital expenditure. Do we see a place where $600 million is spent every year, year after year, right? $600 million. All right, guys. Thank you so much for staying with us. Remember, Castle Bruce Family and Friends Reunion is starting on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 10th, and it runs until the 17th. All roads lead to Castlebrose. For the week, we have a lot of activities packed and waiting for you, a lot of entertainment. Make sure you don't miss it. You'll be missing a wonderful experience. Come experience Castlebrose hospitality and our vivaciousness and our vibrancy and our hospitality. All right, folks. So good night and thanks very much for being with me. Thanks for the participation. And let's do this again next week, Wednesday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Dominica time. And I'll see you when we get there. Remember to like the channel if you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, like, follow, and hit the notification bell so you can know when we are on. Good night, folks, and all the best for the rest of the week.